All right, welcome back, Egyptology lovers. Today we are going to do plate 12 to 14, which incorporates a single chapter, which is chapter 18. So proceeding from chapter 146, 147 from plate 11. So we're going to move forward now. Now, assembling Ani's Book of the Dead affixed the noticeable lighter sheets that comprise chapter 18 and its unique introductory scene, which are not found in any other Book of the Dead. So this is very unique in itself that it's not found in any other book. The respectful posture here that you could see of Ani and Tutu twice here in these two rows, who are shown twice standing behind priests officiated in panther skin robes, again implies that the couple is participating in a ritual. The priest in the upper register is identified as the pillar of his mother, right over here. And the one on the lower register is the son whom he loves. They're both priests, so generally these two priests are there for different ceremonial participation. Now, one of the major functions of both offices has to perform the opening of the mouth ceremony, in which the ritual equipment, the mummy of the deceased and the Book of the Dead itself, are made effective. In this case, however, the priests are shown making a gesture of speech towards the doorways that appear to the right of the priest's invocation. You can see here they're making a gesture towards the door and a ceremony for opening the doors. For his part, Ani merely recites two brief praises right here. Two brief praises right over there. Of Osiris as the god in charge of both 𝓄𝓈�𝑓 and the god's domain, and as a judge of the dead. Now, chapter 18 is considered with instructing the deceased about various aspects of the underworld or afterworld. For unknown reasons, this lengthy chapter occurs twice in this particular Book of the Dead, here again, and also later on you'll see in plate 23 and 24. The main purpose of this chapter is to describe some of the councils which judge the dead and the mythological events with which each council is connected. The two priests merely introduce Osiris Ani to the judgats, or the councils of the gods belonging to the god's domain, and 𝓄𝓈𝑓, which is the necropolis. Now, in the lower register, Ani's name has been carelessly omitted. So this is a perfect example of commercialization for the Book of the Dead, where many books were pre-written for noblemen, for wealthy people and royals, and copies were made by copyists who couldn't read, who simply just copied what they were given, and basically their handwriting had to be a good one, which in this case, this is very nicely written by a very good copyist. But you could see the difference that these two were pasted together, different handwriting with different color and different handwriting with different color of paper. So completely two different things stuck together. So that's a perfect example of this type of commercialization. Now, generally speaking, there is no fixed vignettes for chapter 18, whose text appears in between the vertical strips illustrating the divine members of the council. Ani's papyrus leads us into the retrograde text again, as we did in the previous plates, so to speak, through the two doorways, which are mentioned neither in the chapter nor in the introduction. The upper doorway is surmounted by friezes of erected cobras. So you can see here the erected cobras. Okay, the erected cobras on top, and both, which can mean, the cobras and the ostrich feathers as well. So cobras, ostrich feathers, which can also mean Ma'at. Above the lower doorway is a recumbent figure of Anubis, and behind whom the Wadjet eye appears. So you can see here the Wadjet eye, the eye of Horus, which was plucked out of his eye by his uncle Set when they were fighting, and then restored again by Thoth. The text of chapter 18 follows a general pattern. First comes as an address to Thoth, asking him to vindicate Ani against his afterlife enemies in the presence of a succession of councils, each belonging to major Egyptian cult center. In each instance, Thoth, vindications of Osiris and of the Osiris Ani, is also connected with an event or ritual in the mythological past. In all but the final section, each block of text concludes with an explanation of either the council or the mythical occasion in answer to a question. The purpose of chapter 18 is simple, and for most of the plates that we'll see, 13 and 14, the purpose of the chapter is to allow Ani to get Thoth's favorable introduction to the major bodies which might be called upon to pass judgment on him in the next world. So each one of these gods who speak and who are asking to listen, he's trying to gain favor from them. So that's the general idea of chapter 18, and this will be played 12 to 14. This is 12, so stay tuned for the writing, retrograde. So in this particular example here, we are doing the retrograde writing. So though the text begins here, we're not starting over there, we're actually starting over here. So we're reading from we're moving from left to right, but we're reading from right to left, like that. All right, so stay tuned. We'll begin right over here on top. All right, welcome back. So we're going to start reading the text starting from here. It's highlighted in red. If you see red and black, red is usually the color to introduce the sentence or to introduce a new thing that's being said. And then black, of course, is the standard writing script or the paragraph or the paraphrase or the body of the text. So here we go. Praising of Osiris, Lord of 𝓄𝓈�𝑇𝑌, or Rasu, which is a necropolis, of the great Aeneid, which is in the god's domain, by the Osiris scribe Ani. Now continuing up here. Words spoken by. Hail to you, foremost of Westerners. So this is the title of Osiris. 𝓄𝓈�𝑓𝑒𝑟, which is also a title of Osiris. It means beautiful one. 𝓄𝓈𝑓𝑒𝑟. Dwelling in Abydos or Abju, so Abju, which is the same word. I have come before you, my heart, which is bearing truth, without wrongdoing in my body, without saying falsehood knowingly. I have not done misdeed. Now this means repeat twice, so you have to say it again. I have not done misdeed. May I be given bread, which comes forth from upon the altar of the Lords of truth. May I enter and may I go out. So you see how the legs are reversed, so going in and then going out. From the God's domain, without the ba, or the spirit, being hindered. May I see the Eton, or the sun, and may I behold the moon forever. And this repeats twice, you can see it again. May I behold the moon forever. All right, now we're continuing over here where the priest is. Words spoken by. The pillar of his mother. And this is combined together here with mother. He says, or he said, I have come before you, O great council, which is in the sky and the earth, and in the God's domain. I have brought to you the Osiris Ani. He did not do any bad before all the gods. Let him be together with you every day. All right, now we're continuing down here in the lower register. Praising or worshipping of Osiris, Lord of eternity, and all counselors of 𝓄𝓈�𝑇𝑌, or Tutu, which is the necropolis, a general term for necropolis, by the Osiris. Now this is indicated before, as I said. The copyist carelessly forgot to put in Ani's name. This is a bad thing when it comes to Book of the Dead, because then if your name is not in there, you cannot proceed forth. So if Ani, just imagine Ani in the afterlife trying to speak his name, he can't, because he can't recall his name in there. So this is a very bad omission by the copyist, which proved that they didn't really read, they just simply copied and told what to do. So let's continue. He says, "Hail to you, king in the god's domain, ruler of the land of silence. I have come before you, knowing that you are in your ways. You are equipped in your form of the underworld. May I be given a place in the God's domain, at the presence of the Lords of truth, and my permanent endowment in the field of reeds. May I receive offering in your presence." All right, now we continue over here for this next priest. Words spoken by the son of whom he loves. He says, or he said, "I have come before you, O great council, which is in 𝓄𝓈�𝑇𝑌, or Rasu, the necropolis. I bring to you for the Osiris, Ani. May you give him bread, water, and air, and an endowment in the field of reeds, like the followers of Horus." All right, now, so we're going to continue over here, moving over to the text here where the gods are seated, and we'll be listening to what Ani has to say. Now, this will be a little strange the way the writing is. It's going to start here on top and move in this direction. So we're still doing the retrograde position, but very strangely done as well. So as you see here, it starts from the right to move to the left, but here now it's starting the retrograde, where before it wasn't retrograding, it was just moving in the proper direction. But this is now moving retrograde. So here we go. So it's going to go from left to right, where over here it went from right to left. So you can see two different types of scripts glued together. Something was written differently in this direction and something was written differently in this direction. So this tells you that they didn't take that much attention to it, especially in the Book of the Dead of the commercialized versions. Stuff glued together and then the directions are completely off. This is a proof of how the copies are different. They just stuck something together to make a book for someone. All right, so we're going to start over here. As to the great council, which is in 𝓄𝓖𝑖𝑇𝑌, which is Heliopolis, they are this Atum, this Shu, this Tefnut. As for the guarding of the rebels, it means this destruction of the gangs of this Set, which is the evil uncle of Horus, and who removed the eye, the Wadjet eye, right over here, from Horus. When he repeated the offenses. O Thoth, who vindicated, this is the complete word of vindicated, the Osiris against his enemies, who vindicated the Osiris Ani. Continuing here, Ani against his enemies. In the great council, which is in Besuris. Besuris is Jadu. That's the same. Egyptian name is Jadu. On that night, so that night of erecting the Jed pillar in Besuris or Jadu. Okay, now we're going to continue over here. We're doing retrograde style in this particular parchment, so in this papyrus. So here we go. As to the great council, which is in Jadu or Besuris, as to the great council, which is in Jadu or Besurus. It is this Osiris, this Isis, this Nephthys, this Horus, the avenger of his father. As to the raising of the Jed pillar in Besurus or Jadu, it is this shoulder of Horus, foremost of 𝓄𝓈�𝓇𝓼. So it's a city district. Or Minchim. Oh, they were behind Osiris in binding with cloth, which goes up to here, cloth. O Thoth, who vindicated Osiris against his enemies, who vindicated the Osiris Ani, vindicated before his enemies in the great council, which is in 𝓄𝓈�𝓇𝓼 or Minchim, on the night of the evening meal in 𝓄𝓈𝓇𝓼 again, Minchim. So that's the end of plate 12. We'll proceed to plate 13. The same principle applies for 12, plate 13 and 14. It's the same type of progression with an announcement or proclamation before the gods. You could see here that the text, as an example, was poorly inscribed. You could see the difference between what a copyist had already pre-made and what the next copyist did. The handwriting is completely different. And you can see here it's a little bit rough and quickly drawn in to complete the text itself. So there you go, a little bit of an example of how commercialized Book of the Deads were glued together, and sometimes they didn't even move in the right direction. This is moving in the traditional sense from the right to left, and this is moving retrograde from left to right. So a perfect example of this type of unusual gluing together of papyrus.